Not bad, and you as well. Brilliant. Moving to English now because we're pressed for time. If everybody's ready, let me see. Listening, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Can I please hear Sarah on the English channel?
Hello, yes, this is Sarah speaking on the English channel. I hope that's coming through clearly for everybody. I'll just keep speaking loud and clear from Jose. Yeah, I think that should be fine. Shall I keep going? Or?
It's okay, Sarah.
I think it's all right.
We can
Thank
hear
you.
Samuel on French real quick.
Hello, 1, 2. Sorry, I can't hear anyone speaking on the English channel. It was just me speaking. Okay, for Sarah, but I can't hear anything.
Amazing. Yeah, let's see if you hear Maria and Jose all right. I'm calling them next.
I'm good, okay.
I'm calling then Maria to the English channel, please.
Hello, Lou. Testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Jose on the English, please.
Hello everyone, this is Jose testing the English channel. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Brilliant. Thanks everyone. Good luck.
You are absolute stars. We managed to do 2 sound checks in 20 minutes. Thank you guys. Grab a cuppa and see you on the chat. Who should be host now?
I think it's
DC. Make everyone Lou, before you make me the host, you can make everyone co-host who needs to be a co-host. But it's the host computer, host DC.
I just need to check. Rodrigo, which profiles do you need to be?
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. My name is Lawrence Haddad. I'm the chair of Action Track 1 and the executive director of the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, or GAIN. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the launch of the Zero Hunger Private Sector Pledge. And before we start, I'd like to remind you that interpretation is available in this session. Just simply click on the interpretation button below and choose your preferred language. Well, last year saw the biggest increase in hunger for 50 years, with 118 million more people going to bed hungry every night. Hunger, we know, kills hopes and dreams. And in a world of such affluence, hunger, frankly, it's just an ugly outrage. But last year, we also found hope. We now have a realistic, evidence-based action roadmap to end this outrage. We know now that there are 10 high-impact investment areas: on the farm, food on the move, and empowering those that are excluded, such as Indigenous peoples, women, and youth. If we double our investments in these 10 areas, we can end hunger, increase rural incomes, and protect our climate at the same time. Doubling investment to end hunger, that is all we need. That's why we're launching the Zero Hunger Private Sector Pledge. It is a unique opportunity for companies to align their core businesses with these 10 areas and be a part of a global coalition working to end hunger. Now, we opened the pledge only 3 weeks ago, and the response has been incredible, overwhelming. I'm pleased to announce that 42 companies have pledged to invest $345 million in 34 countries that have the highest burdens of hunger and malnutrition. That is incredible. Thank you, every company that has committed and pledged. So I'm honored to be with you today to formally launch this pledge in this distinguished company. Who do we have with us today? Well, we have the UN Special Envoy, who kept pushing us to make sure zero hunger remained a priority for the summit. Food system transformation that does not address hunger is self-contradicting. It is literally an oxymoron. We have businesses here who have moved into perhaps unfamiliar area of hunger reduction, but they've done so with energy and ambition, and in a way that's based on their core business, not on CSR. We have governments with us who've signaled their intent to tackle the outrage that is hunger. I will keep using that word today, colleagues, outrage. And it's an outrage, and they've told us that they warmly welcome others to join them to end hunger. We have partners, the partners for this pledge, who will help us convert these pledges to meaningful, implementable, and impactful actions, and will help to track progress and outcomes. The partners are FAO, Grow Africa, Grow Asia, IISD, the World Benchmarking Alliance, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, the World Food Programme, and GAIN. And these partners will confirm that all the pledges pass our 3 tests. Number 1, they have to sit clearly within the high impact action areas and in the high priority countries. That's number 1. Number 2, the companies need to abide with several global business standards, including the CFS principles for responsible investment in agriculture and food systems. And 3, the companies have to allow progress against the commitments to be monitored and reported publicly by the World Benchmarking Alliance. Now, I'd like to introduce our first lineup of speakers. We have Dr. Agnes Kalibata. Agnes is known to everybody. She is the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for 2021 Food Systems Summit. Agnes, before anyone else has a chance to say it, thank you so much for your inspirational leadership over the last, with me for the last 12 months, but with others for the last 24 months. Thank you. You must be very proud and very happy. We have, instead of David Beasley, the Executive Director of WFP, who had an emergency and couldn't be with us, we're delighted to have Valerie Guarnieri. Valerie is the assistant executive director of WFP and a fantastic hunger fighter herself. We have His Excellency Mr. Desire Nzinga Birhanzi, who's the Minister of Agriculture of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Thank you, Excellency, for joining us. And we have Mr. Peter Backer, who is the President and CEO of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. Now, let me pass the floor to Agnes. Agnes, when you appointed me as Action Track 1 lead, you said, I remember it, you said, Lawrence, I know you work a lot on malnutrition, but don't forget hunger in Action Track 1. And these words have been ringing in my ears for the last 12 months. Over to you, Agnes.
Thank you, Lawrence. I hope you can hear me, and I'm very, very happy to be with you here today. Lawrence, the reason I said don't forget hunger, 2 reasons. When you know what hunger feels like, and when you know that people are feeling hunger at a time when we have all the solutions that are critical to ending hunger in the world, it just feels like immoral for people to be living through hunger when we know what needs to be done. So that's why I put that emphasis there. And that's the reason I'm in the Food Systems Summit, Lawrence. I keep saying it's not because I was short of what to do, but knowing that my continent is for the first time experiencing the highest level of extreme poverty in 50 years, the highest level of hunger in 50 years. I mean, why would I not want to do 3-4 times the same amount of work that I do every day? If I can help be part of something like this, something as big as what we are doing here today, be able to actually empower people, give people an opportunity to reverse what's going on. So Lawrence, I'm extremely proud of what is happening here today because we are taking responsibility. Agriculture and food systems are primarily, when I look at them, when they function, they are primarily a private sector business. I've tried, when I was minister, I tried moving from one country to country. I found the only places you found food and food systems in the hands of public sector, it's because private sector was struggling to get in. It is primarily a private sector business, and we need to do everything. And it is great to see that you have been able to mobilize the public sector around the table to be able to pledge to its own commitment of ensuring creating an environment that will allow private sector to thrive. And it's extremely delightful to see that you have been able to mobilize private sector to be able to step out of its comfort zone and put their best foot forward in terms of coming through for people and supporting private sector, public sector efforts. The 33 billion that we talk about every year and the 57 billion that we are trying to catalyze is something that is going to happen. We have to do it to reverse the direction of hunger. So thank you for putting down the building block. Every house starts with the first stone. So this is the first stone of getting to 2030 without hunger. And this is something that is completely doable. So if there was a proud moment in this whole process, this is for me the proudest moment. This is something that makes me tear up because this is about the reason in the first place I was in this business, to see us commit to ending hunger. So thank you to the partners in the private sector that see the opportunity to be part of this. Thank you for your leadership, Peter. Thank you for your leadership, Kyudong-Yu, because I know you're going to take this and run with it. So we have a huge challenge ahead of us. We are behind your backs. We are, as the institutions that are working on the continent, especially here from an African perspective, because the moment that 23rd ends, I put on back my Agra hat, and we are prepared to work with you to ensure that we end hunger in different parts of the world. We are really committed to this, and we welcome this private sector effort. So thank you for making this dream a reality. For most of us who thought that this was far-fetched. Thank you.
Agnes, thank you for your guidance over the past year, and it has been incredibly empowering to know that you have our back, and I've always felt that And thank you so much, Agnes. Now I'd like to welcome Valerie Guarnieri. Valerie is the AED of WFP. And Valerie is well known, as is the World Food Programme, as they're dynamic leaders in the fight against hunger. They're frequently at the leading edge of ending hunger. And that's because they're at the leading edge of being confronted by the devastating consequences of hunger, working in the most marginal and fragile areas that many of us never see. Valerie, over to you.
Well, thank you, Lawrence. And it's a great pleasure for me to be with you here this morning. I know that you were expecting David Beasley, and I'm sorry he had an emergency and had to be pulled away, but I feel like I drew the long straw in getting to be here for this important event that showcases the critical role that the private sector must play in fueling our progress towards zero hunger and the other sustainable development goals. As David Beasley always says, we will never succeed unless the private sector is on board, because you are the innovators, you're the job creators, and you are the engines of growth and prosperity around the world that we're relying on to help us get to our destination. And that destination is zero hunger. And I have to tell you that we need you more than ever right now, globally, because of conflict, because of extreme weather, and now with the COVID-19 pandemic. We've seen millions of people brought to the brink of starvation. And the 2021 State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World report highlights the huge damage that's been done. Lawrence gave the numbers. Up to 811 million people now go to bed hungry each night, 270 million people literally knocking on the door of starvation. And this is really 41 million people in this IPC4 at the brink of famine. These aren't statistics, or they're not just statistics. These are real children, real women, real girls and boys and men. And they need our help, not tomorrow or next week. They need our help today. And if the world turns its back on these people, we could see crises and even famines of biblical proportions, resulting in economic deterioration, destabilization, mass migration. That's the bad news. But the good news is that we can still turn this crisis around. And why do I say that? Because in the past 200 years, we've made incredible progress in improving people's lives. Humanity is healthier, wealthier, and wiser than we've ever been before. And this is largely thanks to the incredible ingenuity and innovation of the private sector. So we need you. We need you to come and join our movement, because we simply can't succeed without you. And how is any of this going to help you fulfill your business, you may be thinking? But I mean, the thing is it's not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. At the World Food Programme, we don't just feed people so they can live to see another day. We invest in programs to support their longer-term sustainable economic development, the creation of sustainable livelihoods for poor communities, and the expansion of new economies, new economic markets that can harness growth. We already have a wide range of innovative partnerships with the private sector, like with the Dutch firm Royal DSM, where we're collaborating to make nutritious food more accessible, or with the logistics company UPS, where we're trying to streamline our supply chain so we can ensure that life-saving support reaches people faster than ever. But if we're truly serious about achieving zero hunger, then we're going to need to be a lot more ambitious. We need to step up the scope of our scale of our partnerships and of our collaborations to get the job done. We need everyone to come on board, and I mean everyone. And so whether you're offering your time, your know-how, or financial support, it's time for those who have the most to step up and help those who have the least. And that's the only way that we're going to break this vicious cycle of poverty, hunger, and conflict, which still traps so many families all across the world. Thank you for your pledge. Thank you for your commitment. We're counting on you and your support.
Thank you, Valerie. You're absolutely right. It's the right thing to do. It's also the smart thing to do. I think that's one of the things the Pledges has really brought into the spotlight for the businesses we've been talking to. Next, we have His Excellency, Mr. Desiree Mzinga Birhanzi, who is the Minister of Agriculture for the DRC. We're so happy, Your Excellency, we're honored to have you here. Countries are the lead zero hunger champions. And so these pledges will only make sense if they're aligned to your priorities, your development plans, and your commitments. Excellency, we're thrilled that you've joined us, and we're thrilled that you've joined the Zero Hunger Coalition. And through this, we hope that the private sector pledge can bring more and better investment into your country. You have the floor, sir.
Oui, je commence d'abord par remercier les organisateurs de ce forum.
Yes, I'd like to thank the organisers of this forum for this opportunity to participate today and to address you, talking about this real scourge for our country. It's important to say that the number of people actually affected by food insecurity is huge. So 1 in 3 individuals in our country, the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's an absolutely intolerable situation. And in the name of our head of state, in his launching speech for one of our campaigns in 2019, we talked about how we have so much rich arable land and we really could actually attain food self-sufficiency, but we have huge challenges to face when it comes to actually setting up innovative programs and actually really taking advantage of the richness that we have. We have a vision to really get out of this situation of poverty. Over the next 10 years, we need a huge investment in agriculture. We are very much committed to transforming our food systems to make them more resilient, inclusive, equitable and sustainable in accordance with the Sustainable Development Goals. We'd like to encourage everybody present here, including the authority representatives, to really come on board with us for this investment between now and 2030 to really try to attain our goals. It really is a national priority, and this is echoed in our national plans for food security and nutritional security. It's a priority area for us. We have specific goals to nourish our whole population, to work on natural protection, to make sure that people within agriculture and within food systems are able to have real sustainable livelihoods, and to make our whole system more sustainable and more resistant to shocks and crisis. We need our institutions to be on board with this. We have support from the FAO, from the World Food Programme. We are really participating now in a collective effort to eradicate hunger in the world. We're very proud to be part of the Zero Hunger Coalition. Through this coalition and our partners, we really commit to working with the private sector to roll out this commitment. This is an issue that my ministry and our government is really supporting, along with cooperatives, NGOs, and our peasants, our associations from the civil society sector as well, in this joint fight. This really is an essential area for us, and we are giving all our technical, financial, administrative support to this. This is what I wanted to say in terms of what's happening today and our own commitments. We really do welcome the engagement of all our partners, this Zero Hunger Coalition that is really supporting us in this work. And we really hope that we will be able to roll this out and work together. Thank you very much.
Minister, thank you so much for those words. We hear you loud and clear. This is your #1 priority. You're open to working and want to work with the private sector, and you already are. And the coalition may be a way of helping you, will be a way of helping you achieve your goals, which are around ending hunger in ways that, and I loved what you said about, it's not just about ending hunger, it's protecting the environment, it's generating jobs, it's making sure that greenhouse gas emissions are in line with Paris, and it's about promoting resilience. So thank you, Minister, very much. Now, the coalition is a large group of member states who are committed to goals such as your own, Minister, and it's also international organizations, civil society organizations, and farmer organizations. And I want to share with you some messages from governments around the world, from Norway, Pakistan, Ireland, and Nigeria. And over to you to play the video, colleagues.
Norway commits to supporting farmers with securing access to seeds that meet local needs. This supports production of diverse and nutritious food.
With higher and more diverse food production potential, Pakistan can support its malnourished and vulnerable population. Pakistan is also committed to join the Zero Hunger Coalition for seeking technical assistance and sharing experiences for achieving national and international zero hunger goals.
Ireland commits to tackling wasting and acute hunger through political and financial commitments. An investment in nutrition is an investment in our future.
Nigeria prioritizes agricultural transformation and children's nutrition. The Zero Hunger Coalition can help to support our priorities through setting up smart partnerships, sharing learnings, and offering technical support.
So colleagues, you see governments are really committed and really behind this issue, and they really think this coalition can be a critical support to help them realize their priorities. Now, I'd like to introduce you to the final speaker on this panel, Peter Bakker. And Peter is the CEO of WBCSD. Peter, you've been a fighter against hunger for a long time, and your leadership and support was instrumental in signaling the importance of this issue to your private sector members and to the role they could play. Thank you so much, Peter. Over to you.
Well, thank you, Lawrence, and hello, everybody. As we all know, this is probably the most important week of this year. The UN Food System Summit is finally upon us. We'll, for the first time at the global level, talk about food as a system and the need to transform it to an equitable, net zero, nature positive food system that can nourish all people with healthy diets. And those are beautiful words, and I'm sure they'll echo around the plenary room all day long on Thursday. But we cannot have a transformation of a food system as long as there's hunger around. Now, as Valerie was saying, 270 million people facing starvation, 130 million more than before COVID actually struck. So the numbers are moving against us. We need to act now. What I like about the Zero Hunger Pledge and why I've put the organization that I run behind it is it's no longer just a matter of CSR, of charity. It's now really asking companies to align their investments with the agenda that will resolve hunger by 2030. By aligning investments in farmer support, in access to market, in climate-resistant crops, we can really mobilize the power of business, the innovation it can bring, and bring it on the ground to help communities drive up their income, take care of the resilience of their food system, and as such, find a way out of the hunger cycle that is working against them. What I think we need to do in the coming years is not just make this a one-off pledge. The numbers sound amazing, and I compliment Lawrence for in 3 weeks convincing companies to already pledge almost 350 million. It's a sizable number, but we need to drive this into a structural change in the way business thinks, in the way it reports the impacts it has in its ESG data, in World Benchmark Alliance type of reports. because by changing the way business thinks, by aligning their investments with this important agenda, that's the way that we mobilize scale, and that's the way that we have a real chance to remove hunger from this planet. And that, to me, is the most urgent transformation that we should focus on this week. So I'm happy to be part of this coalition. I thank Lawrence for his leadership. I testify that any conversation I've had with Agnes Kalibata, she was on my back, and what about hunger? So here we are, business is at the table, and here we are to mobilize the scale. Thank you.
Peter, thank you. I've heard you use the expression go big or go home many times, and it applies to this issue more than any. And I think your point about changing mindsets and changing the way businesses see hunger and see it not just as CSR, but as something their core business can contribute to is absolutely spot on. So thank you, Peter, for your support. Now, colleagues, you've heard enough about what the private sector can do. Let's actually hear from some of the companies that have signed up to this pledge. We have another short video for you, colleagues. Back to you.
Today, we fully believe that not only we have to, but we can end malnutrition. It is why, since more than 15 years, we are working with local enterprise to pull together our competencies to improve local economy. In the next years, NutriZ Group commits to increase its local technical support to improve local competencies to fight against malnutrition.
Let me give you 2 examples of where Unilever is already investing according to these principles. First, on the farm. On the farm, we support regenerative agricultural practices, ones that are economically viable for farmers. Second, the area of empowering the excluded. Unilever committed last year to help equip 10 million young people with essential skills by 2030. Now, these are just 2 examples of the work and investments we're already making at Unilever. With our new €1 billion Climate and Nature Fund, we intend to make many more, and the 10 high-impact areas that you've outlined are really, really helpful as we do so.
Our investments do include concrete projects with smallholder farmers on ground, food fortification, mosquito nets to eradicate malaria, and infrastructure such as our onion seed plant in Ethiopia. We can end hunger on this planet if we act now and if we act all together.
We also focus on the elderly through community projects and direct feeding programs. And finally, we're empowering youth through our Sahel Scholars program to ensure that we create leaders of today and tomorrow.
Last week, PepsiCo launched Pep Positive, which is our new framework for strategic end-to-end transformation. Many of the investments that we will make as part of this PEP Positive program are aligned with the impact areas targeted by the Zero Hunger Pledge. For example, we have partnership with CARE and the U.S. Agency for International Development to empower women in agriculture and train them in sustainable farming practices. We welcome this opportunity to join this pledge as we leverage our scale to support the transformation of the global food system.
We pledge our support to the private sector mechanism for zero hunger because the fight against hunger is aligned with the UN SDGs in shaping the future we want. We will continue to work with UN FAO in its food and agriculture initiatives in the Philippines. We will push for the mainstreaming and scaling of GrowAsia's and the ASEAN Responsible Agricultural Investment Guidelines and OECD's Responsible Value Chains in Southeast Asia.
We believe a world without hunger can be achieved through the idea of nutrition without compromise, where nutrition is achieved without compromising taste, access, and the local way of life.
Great to see those companies and their leaders stepping up to end hunger, really inspirational. Now, I'd like to pass this on to one of the co-authors of the SERA's 2030 report, Karen Smaller. Karen is the Director of Agriculture trade, and investment at the International Institute for Sustainable Development, or IISD. Karen has more, I would say, than any other person been responsible for getting us to where we are today. And I want to thank her and her dozens and dozens of co-authors for the Ceres 2030/FAO/ZEF reports, which were so brilliantly timed for the release in October 2020 for this summit, and for her absolutely tireless work with businesses in getting us to 345 million today. Karen, over to you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for those kind words, but this really was a team effort to get us where we got to in such a short time. So now's our chance to have a bit of a conversation with some of the farmers and companies who've pledged and those that will be working with them to implement these pledges. So I'd like to call onto the Zoom platform our 4 panelists for this session: Caroline Keeling from Keelings, Nemeka Ikweguno from Cold Hubs and the Smallholder Foundation, Thierry Nohasia Rivelo from the SBN, the Sun Business Network in Madagascar, and Dr. Godfrey Bahigwe, who's here representing Commissioner Sacco from the African Union Commission. We had a comment in the chat box. Before I talk about the comment in the chat box, I also just wanted to let those of you who are watching, who I think can't see how many people are here today, we've actually got almost 270 people watching this event today. Many of them the companies that pledged for this pledge. So welcome everybody, great to see you all here. Thank you for joining and thank you for turning out in such high numbers, not just to pledge, but also to our launch event. The first 2 people I'm going to actually introduce actually are farmers. We had a message from Ambassador Salha about how important farmers are as the private sector who are doing the most investment in agriculture. So I'll start with Caroline. Caroline Keeling, she's the CEO of Keelings, which is an Irish-owned family business. Farmers who started growing fresh produce on their farm in the 1920s. Keelings today employs 2,500 people, and they buy produce, predominantly fruits and vegetables, from 45 countries, and they sell it in 25 countries. So a farming story that has a big success. Caroline was actually one of the first people to put her hand up to join the pledge. So my question to you, Caroline, is why? Why are you joining this pledge? Why is an Irish farmer with a family-owned operation in Ireland joining this pledge? And aside from why you're joining it, what do you think the biggest challenges are going to be to trying to implement your pledge? Caroline.
Well, thank you, Karen. It's such a pleasure to be here today. I suppose when I look at, as you said, Irish heritage, I think there's a lot of hunger in Ireland's heritage. So I think it appeals to a lot of people in Ireland to see where can we support. If you look at our company, Keelings, our purpose is better food, better world. And we target ourselves every year to make food a little bit better through quality, taste, sustainability and availability, while positively impacting our social impact on the world. It needs to be positive while we do that. So we were kind of struggling as to what projects we do. We could do a number in Ireland and the UK where we're used to working, but as we go further afield to try and support and help, we weren't quite sure how we could have the most impact for the resources we allocate to projects. And, you know, so this could not have happened for us at a better time, because it really enabled us to focus our resources towards projects that are going to have impact. And while we may not be the biggest, you know, we do believe we're going to gain more partners, because the first project that we've signed up for and the first pledge we've made has a number of project partners who've made this project happen. And I think as we can gain more partners to make this happen, it's going to really, really improve the amount of projects that we can do. So our project is where we're working with a Moroccan tomato producer. So we have 870 people involved in this production, and it's an increased availability for social programs. So we are paying a 15% premium for the product in order to drive these social programs on the ground. Now, the only way we could do this is our customer is the Co-op in the UK, and they have been incredibly supportive to us in trying to generate positive social impact. So I feel they've been a great partner in this, but as we sign up to the pledge and as we look to do more pledges in the future, I think it's going to really help by having the 10 high impact investments so that people feel that we really will make a difference. I think some of the challenges that we're going to face going forward are trying to make these commercially long-term. And a big challenge we have for our own business is this particular project we've set up. Ourselves and our customer are taking a reduced margin. We are not asking the consumer to pay extra for this product. And I think it's where we can set up these commercially sound projects where the consumer is not having to pay too much extra to have a positive social impact. I think those projects will really take off and have longevity to them. So that's the challenge that we have for our team. But what I like is we're exercising all of our resources to try and make this happen. So it's not just about we donated some money. We're trying to exercise all of our resources so that we can make all the projects that we get involved in these high impact areas successful. And that's going to be key for us in the future. So I do think retailers are going to have a big role to play because they do drive investment. But I think as well, every company getting your whole company behind the projects to make them successful, I think will be the challenge.
Great, thank you so much, Caroline. And if anyone has a question for Caroline, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box. And Caroline, I encourage you to have a look at the chat box, see if there's questions for you and help answer it. Just so you know, Caroline Keeling from Keeling's pledged £2 million as part of her first initial pledge, her company's first pledge, which I think is an impressive amount of money. We have published all the company pledges and how much each company has pledged. So if you're interested to find out what the 42 companies, how much they've pledged, please have a look at our website. It's gone live today with our launch. Nemeka, you're our second speaker on this panel. Nemeka is also a farmer, but he's a lot of other things. Nemeka is both a farmer and a radio presenter. When he was just 21 years old, he founded a radio program to try and reach farmers in the south of Nigeria and to provide them information about agricultural issues, environmental management issues, market access issues, and did it in local languages. But he didn't join the pledge because of his role in the radio. He actually joined this pledge because a few years later, he started a company called Cold Hubs, which is an SME that designs, installs, commissions, and operates 100% solar-powered walk-in cold rooms, particularly for smallholder farmers. This innovation, or this SME that Nemeka started, has helped improve the shelf life of fresh produce from 2 days to 21 days. And this is, for me, a perfect example of exactly the types of pledges and exactly the types of investments we want to see being driven. SMEs helping farmers reduce waste, helping farmers increase their incomes, and doing it in a way that reduces their dependency on fossil fuels. Nemeka, can you tell us a bit more about what you pledged, who you're partnering with, and how you think this is going to help Nigerian farmers.
Thank you very much, Karen, for the kind introduction. Our company Code Hubs is pledging to spend a minimum of $5 million over the next 2 years, actually, for 4 things. The first is we are going to deploy 20 units of our 100 tons solar-powered walk-in cold rooms in very high potential food aggregation hubs and farm clusters across Nigeria. The second is to procure refrigerated trucks that will enable us quickly evacuate food from farm clusters to outdoor food markets. The third is to start small-scale production of 100,000 returnable plastic crates for the proper packaging of food instead of the use of raffia baskets, which actually accelerate bruises around fresh fruit and vegetables. And the fourth is to launch the Code Connect app that will enable anyone in this country request for cold storage services and also track cold storage services. We are undertaking this because at Code Hub, we strongly believe that zero hunger can actually be realized when the food supply chain is efficient and effective. However, for this food supply chain to be efficient and effective, we need solid infrastructure, that we connect all the dots and also close the gaps. And for us, that infrastructure starts with a cold storage. A cold storage will enable smallholder farmers store, preserve, extend the shelf life of food, and commence distribution of food. And this will eliminate the 50% food spoilage that we are witnessing at the moment due to lack of cold storage at key points along the food supply chain. Our partners for this is actually the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, GAIN. We'll be working closely with them and several other international development partners. For Nigerian smallholder farmers, when you have 20 units, 100 tons, 100-ton cold hubs, it will enable them aggregate 2,000 tons of food every day. In a year, that will be 712 tons of food. This is food that typically are lost in the farms, that are dropped on the highways, food typically lost, but now becomes fresh food that will be sold to the public. For the public, it is 712 tons of safe, nutritious, hygienic food for consumption. For the environment, it's more than 1 million kilograms of CO2 because we are using renewable energy exclusively to power our cold rooms instead of diesel generators. For women and youth, it is more than 200 new jobs, hiring and training them to work as our hub operators and market attendants. And for the farmers, again, it is an opportunity to sell what used to be lost food as new food and increase their income by 50% from $60 every month to $120 every month. Code Hubs is proud to be part of this process, and we are happy to be making this pledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Nemeka. Fascinating and absolutely transformative, especially for a country who in the last few years has seen the hunger numbers rise awfully, disproportionately compared to other countries. So it's great. It's an incredible contribution that you're making. I now want to pass over to Thierry, who coordinates the Scaling Up Nutrition, or SUN, business network in Madagascar. And it's actually been through this Scaling Up Nutrition business network that we've had a lot of pledges coming through. So the SUN business network has been a great source of pledges for this Zero Hunger private sector pledge. Thierry's also played a really strong role throughout the UN Food System Summit and helping to develop the country food system pathways that are going to be another piece of the puzzle. Thierry, can you share a bit with us what the problems that Madagascar are facing right now, and how do you think this pledge and your link to the summit could help improve the situation? And if you could make a link also with the country food system pathways, that would be great. Thierry will speak in French for those who haven't found the English interpretation button. Thierry, you're still on mute.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Can you hear me now okay? Okay, great. Sorry about that. Good afternoon to everyone, or good morning. Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm really happy to be here with you for this very important event today. The Sun Business Network is a coalition of companies, and the majority of them are small and medium-sized enterprises. We're currently led and 40% of our members are individuals who are really working on the land themselves, so working in the sector themselves, and there are a lot of women represented as well. For decades, Madagascar has been affected by hunger and droughts, particularly linked to climate change. We have support from the World Food Programme, but we really are confronted with urgent situations. The Sun Business Network, therefore, offers governments and also companies set up in the region a way to actually give jobs to their populations and try to increase the standard of living. The idea is to really increase the resilience of individuals to climate change in particular. We're really trying to change lives through this. The private sector is looking to actually give individuals nutritious products, nutritious foods, but also invest in improving the food systems and the nutritional content of food in our country. We've looked at the fact that many products are actually not affordable for consumers at the moment because they have many imported ingredients. And so we're trying to actually look at how taxation could be targeted as a way to actually improve and give incentives to individuals and companies to actually improve the infrastructure and try to make these products more affordable so that more of the population can actually access them, particularly vulnerable individuals. Just to conclude what I wanted to say today, I think it's really important for the private sector to be able to become involved and to try to actually support our initiatives in Madagascar. We want to do even more. And I think for donors, this is really important, not only to help the private sector, but the population at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thierry, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. And our last speaker on this panel is Dr. Godfrey Bahigwa. He's the Director of Agriculture and Rural Development at the African Union Commission, and he's here today representing Ambassador Josefa Sacco, who is the Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Development at the African Union Commission. Dr. Bahigwa led the formulation of the Africa Common Position to the United Nations Food System Summit. And before he was at the African Union, he was at the International Food Policy Research Institute, or IFPRI, which has been one of my strongest partners in the last few years and one of the co-authors of the CERES 2030 report. Godfrey, I want to hear from you a bit more about how you think this Zero Hunger private sector pledge can help the African Union and its member state contribute to Africa's strategic visions, Africa's plans for the next decade. And what role do you think within that the AUC can play to help this? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. In addition, for that kind of introduction, I was also the vice chair to Lawrence in Action Track #1 before I abandoned him to concentrate on developing the Africa Common Position to the Food System Summit. I'm happy to represent my commission, Ambassador Josefa Sacco, and we appreciate the invitation by GAIN and ISSD to make these remarks at this launch. As a continent, we have developed an Africa Common Position for this UN Food System Summit. It was endorsed by our member states on July 15, and it will be presented to the summit by President Felix Tshisekedi of DRC, who is the current chair of the African Union, on Thursday at the summit. The Africa Common Position has identified 43 pathways for food system transformation. To implement most of these commitments will require partnership between the public and private sectors. As an example, we have two pathways, one on promoting biofortification of staple foods and industrial food fortification for complementary foods, and two, promoting responsible agroprocessing to produce healthy foods for consumers. Both of these pathways need direct partnership between the private sector and governments. Therefore, we call on the private sector to align their investments to support the pathways that the African Union member states have prioritized within their common position. Africa is open for business. The Africa Continental Free Trade Area, under which trading started on January 1, 2021, presents tremendous opportunities for investment in Africa's agribusiness to access a market of 1.3 billion people, 30% of which are in the middle income category. On the role of the African Union Commission, two things. One, post-summit, we plan to support the AU member states to domesticate their pathways into national investment plans. This is to ensure that the member states allocate resources to them in their annual budgetary processes. Second, we plan to monitor and report to the AU member states the progress they are making to implement their pathways every 2 years. We already have a proven monitoring and reporting mechanism under Africa's comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program. We report to our heads of state and government every 2 years. And as necessary, we pledge to modify this reporting framework with indicators to meet the needs of the food systems approach. As a matter of fact, the 2021 CAADP Biannual Review Report will have a section that will present the data along the 5 action tracks of the UN Food Systems Summit. This 2021 report will also be used as a baseline for tracking implementation of Africa's pathways and commitments under the UN Food Systems Summit. We are also happy to review the indicators to include those that can be used to track private sector commitments that are being made to the UN Food Systems Summit. And this report, therefore, will be used by Africa to report to the UN Food Systems Secretariat. I thank you.
Thank you, Godfrey. And thank you for those important remarks. I'd also like to mention here that Grow Africa, which is an initiative of the African Union Development Agency and part of NEPAD, is also one of the partners of this initiative, and in particular is one of the implementing partners. And there were a number of pledges that were made with Grow Africa as the implementing partner. And I think this initiative of the African Union will help really to move these pledges from high-level statements that we're seeing today and that we're launching today into concrete action. So it's great to have Grow Africa as part of the African Union, part of this initiative as well. I think I have a little bit more time, Lawrence, if you permit me, before I hand back over to you. There was a question for you, Caroline, in the chat group from Pat McMahon. Let me see if I can find it. Did you see that question?
Yeah, I did.
Basically,
I did.
Yeah,
Asking,
I might just repeat it for people who may not have read it, and then I'll let you take the floor. But this idea of if companies are having to pay for the true cost of food, don't we need to encourage the public to pay more for the true cost of food rather than asking the food companies to take the financial hit? So Caroline, do you want to answer that in a few minutes?
Yeah, I think it is a significant challenge, but I would agree that our task is to get to a point where consumers will pay the true cost for food, but it's so skewed in different parts of the world. There's so many subsidies in place for various different things. I do think they should be looked at on a regular basis because what worked in the 60s and 70s sometimes is still in place. and they shouldn't be the type of subsidies that are in place now. But I would say our own, the small way we can impact it, our challenge for our team is we are going to take this for the first 5 years. The social premium will still go back after the 5 years, but the task to our team will be that we can get the same sales while the consumer is going to pay that premium. So that's the challenge for our marketing teams, for our sales teams, our communication teams, to try and achieve that over the period of time. But what we found is sometimes if you start off with the true cost, it never gets off the ground.
Thank you, Caroline. So I think I'm going to hand it now back over to Lawrence and to the FAO DG, Chu Dongchu. And thank you to all of our speakers thank you to Keelings and to Cold Hubs for your pledges. Thank you to the AU and SBN Network for helping to drive pledges and helping to implement them on the ground. Back over to you, Lawrence.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Karen. One of the great things about the pledge is that there's such a diversity of companies that have made pledges from all over the world, all different sizes. And I think that just shows you the kind of this pent up demand, this latent demand, if you like, for companies to do something about zero hunger. And it really is down to the rest of us to draw that out of them and help make it easier for them. And I think Caroline at Keelings was one of the first pledges, and I think we worked a little bit with her, not too hard actually, but to help her figure out how to align with these 10 areas. And then once Caroline got the ball rolling, everything started to follow. So there's a real snowball effect. And I want to go back to what Peter Backer said. This is only the beginning. We can do much, much better than this. Our goal is to get to 5 billion. So 345 million. I don't know what's that, 7 or 8% of our goal. We can do better. But I now would like to turn it back. I'd like to turn to thank Karen and the panel. I'd like to thank the panel for their pledges, for their support, and for their insights and remarks. I'd like it to move us now to FAO. FAO stands for the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. And I'd like to thank their DG, Chu Dongchu, for FAO's incredible support. FAO each action track has an anchor UN agency, and our anchor UN agency was FAO. And anchors can drag you down, or they can give you a fixed point and be a stable basis for moving up. And FAO was definitely the latter. We got so much support from leaders like Maximo Torero and Jamie Morrison and many more. And I know that's because you gave them that freedom, DG, to do that. I want to signal out FAO's Hand in Hand initiative. We've heard a bit about that already. It's an evidence-based, country-led, country-owned program to accelerate agricultural transformation sustainably, to eradicate hunger and end malnutrition and hunger in all its forms. And the Hand in Hand initiative is going to be an important platform to help turn pledges from words into action. With that, I'd like to welcome FAO's Director General, Chu Dongchu, for the closing remarks. DG, over to you.
Thank you, Lawrence, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, my congratulations to the gang and to the Lawrence and the colleagues for leading the Zero Hunger Pledge. I'm encouraged to witness firsthand the commitment of the private sector to achieving zero hunger, eradicate extreme poverty, and halving poverty by 2030 are still two of our most daunting challenges. COVID-19 continue expose weaknesses in our agri-food systems, threatening the lives and livelihood of people around the world. In 2020, as FAO report already indicated, approximately 811 million people went to the bed hungry, and nearly 2.4 billion didn't have access to adequate and nutritious health food. For change to habit, investment, and also all the capacity building in agricultural and agri-food systems are critical. To achieve the SDGs, we need $3.5 trillion per year. Without more active engagement from the private sector, we will not achieve the SDGs, especially SDG 2, SDG 1. For this reason, FAO welcomes Zero Hunger private sector pledge. A pledge recognizes that the government cannot eradicate hunger alone. That's why, as Lawrence mentioned again, since I came, we work together with my colleagues to have a hand-in-hand initiative. It's a platform to get all the key players work together. And it's committed the private sector to better align their operationals and investments with the current reality to end hunger by 2030. The pledge is aligned with FAO mandate and work to support the members to achieve the SDGs, defeat hunger and achieve the food security for all, to ensure the people have a regular access to enough high quality food for health status, to lead active and healthy lives. The pledge also complements FAO hand-in-hand initiative, as already pointed out, a evidence-based country-lead, country-owned initiative to have the accelerated agri-food system transformation. Over 40 countries are part of the hand-in-hand initiative, many of which are also pledged priority countries. Investment plans, gaps, and opportunities have been identified in this area, positioning the initiatives as a mechanism for responsible investment. The pledge also came at a time when FAO implemented its new strategy framework and also new strategy for the private sector engagement. That reflects a renewed and forward-looking vision for a more agile, fit for the purpose, and transformative engagement with the private sector in contribution to achieve the SDGs, to increase impact and the strategy expand the means of engagement, to include innovation, encourage data sharing and dissemination, and increase the SDG-aligned investment in agri-food systems. In April, we launched the Connect portal, which provides information on current partnerships, priority areas, and means. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to see today 42 private sector entities have already made their pledge to help end the world hunger. I already said that if you support the vulnerable and get rid of hunger, if you firmly support all these initiatives, which complement our new strategy framework 2022 to 2031 with overarching objectives to transform agri-food systems to more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. I look forward to other joint and making commitments to ensure that no one is left behind on the road to zero hunger by 2030. Private engagement and pledging is a fundamental dynamics for transform agri-food systems and also for the end hunger. So I appreciate, I commend you, and let's work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director General. You have a full plate. You and the other Rome-based agencies have a full plate taking these coalitions and pledges forwards after the summit. The summit is the end of the beginning. The beginning of the next phase is on September the 24th, the day after the summit. And please rest assured that we all stand with you and by you, side by side, hand in hand, if you like, to help move this agenda forward. As I said at the beginning, how can you talk about food system transformation if it doesn't move the hunger numbers? It's just fake transformation. And we're with you to make sure it's a real transformation. So everyone, in a mere 3 weeks, we have received support from more than 42 companies that have pledged more than, I have to say it again because I keep having to pinch myself, $345 million to end hunger by 2030. We need to get to 5 billion by the end of the year. Can we get to 1 billion by World Food Day in 3 weeks' time? Of course we can. Companies, you need to pledge. If you know a company that you would like to pledge, and you're not working for them or you're not connected in any way to them, tell us about them. Contact Karen or myself. I've put my email contacts in the chat box. Karen, maybe you could do the same. Contact us. We can do this, people. We can get to 1 billion by World Food Day in 3 weeks' time and 5 billion by the end of the calendar year. Why do you need to pledge? Why do companies need to pledge? It's simple. And in fact, why do all of us need to commit to zero hunger? It's simple. There are 3 firsts that have hit us in the last 12 months. This is the first time we've seen such a large increase in hunger this century. I'm old enough to remember, in fact, one of the reasons I got into this field was because of the food price crisis back in not 2008, 2009, back in the mid-70s. Yes, that's how old I am. When I was a kid in school, we learned about the first big food price crisis. In fact, it was the food price crisis that gave birth to the World Food Programme. This is the biggest, we're seeing the biggest increase in hunger numbers since then. The food price indices that FAO produces are going through the roof. So this is the first time in this century, and in fact, since the mid-70s, we've seen this massive increase. That's the first. The second first, if you like, is that we actually have a science-based roadmap to end hunger. Karen said, this roadmap has been produced by hundreds of researchers from dozens and dozens of organizations and dozens of countries. This is the most authoritative thing that we have that says, if you invest in these 10 areas, we will generate hunger reduction. We will get hunger from 768, where it is today, if you use the median estimate, down to less than 200 million by 2030. We can do it. And the third first is just that. We can be the first group of zero hunger champions to actually get to zero hunger. So the first time we've seen this big increase, but the first time we've had a roadmap, and we can be the first to actually end this ugly thing called hunger. In the pre-summit, just before the pre-summit in Rome, one of the ministers of agriculture from Africa came up to me and he said, Lawrence, hunger is an ugly word. And I'm not very proud of it, but I thought, okay, what he's now going to tell me is that we can't talk about hunger in those terms. We have to use terms like food insecurity, which is maybe a bit more palatable. But he completely confounded my assumption. He said, because it's so ugly, we have to look it in the face, stare it down, and do something about it. So colleagues, the action on the private sector front has started. It's also started at the government level because 30 of the 54 African countries have highlighted hunger in their national plans of action. That's fantastic. So the action has started in the public sector, it started in the private sector, and it will begin and has started and will ramp up in civil society and the UN agencies. So colleagues, let's all work together. Let's keep this momentum growing and let's end hunger for good. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for the generosity of your spirit. Please tell us about companies you think we could convince to align their business models with these 10 action areas. And again, let's end hunger and let's do it for good this time. Karen, anything else you'd like to add?
perfect ending. Thank you, Lawrence. And
Thank
thank
you,
you to the
everybody.
GAIN team for running such a smooth ship and giving us all an extra 20 minutes.
Thank you, guys. My take on the 20 minutes saved is that we all agree. We agree this is a critical issue. We agree we can do something about it, and we agree we are going to do something about it. So to be continued, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.